Okay, I see the attendees slipping in, so we'll give them a few minutes to get started. Hey everyone, as you're signing in, if you just want to drop where you're from in the chat, um, just so we can see who all is joining us, that would be fantastic. And maybe you could share the most positive thing that's happened to you this week. We can have a little celebration, a little snap, snap. So far, Katie is in Crawfordsville. That's the only one we've seen so far that's joined or shared in the chat. Make sure if you're sharing in the chat, you have everyone's what you got going on. Scott's here. Fantastic. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the Indiana CTO Council Lunch and Learn for the month of March. We have Julie Slavens with us, and we're going to really let her run the show here in a little bit, but I've got some business we have to take care of first. So the first point of business, I always like to take a minute to thank our platinum partners. We really wouldn't be able to have the successful year we have in supporting other tech directors across Indiana without their partnership. So thank you to all of those platinum partners. If you have a session proposal that you're interested in submitting, we've got just a little bit of time left. If you are on the fence about whether you'd like to present at our clinic, go ahead and scan that QR code and drop in a proposal. Maybe you will have the life-changing session that we didn't know we needed. So make sure you do that. The deadline is coming up. And registration for our clinic is open now. So please go ahead and make sure you get registered. If your school is a COSIN member, you should have already received an email with the coupon code for one free registration. So make sure you check your inbox, let us know if you can't find that, and we will help you out. If you are attending, the deadline to book your hotel is April 6th for our block pricing. So make sure that you have that marked in your calendar and have a plan to book your room before then. Okay, I'm going to throw it to our first platinum partner for today.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Cassie. And good morning, everybody. ESI's, we're grateful for the opportunity to participate in events like this. Excited to support, obviously, the Indiana CTO Council and yeah, have people like Julie talk. You did advance that slide, Cassie, if you could bounce that back. I think somebody else might appreciate it. Yeah, cool. Thank you. We're a full service technology partner based in Indianapolis, working with Indiana schools. So know many of you, and for those of you that don't know us, we're pumped about being at the clinic coming up. So you can find us there. Our kind of K-12 specialists will be there in full force. Courtney and Vern and David will be there. So we're excited about sponsoring again. Look, just a quick note, we're well aware of some of the challenges that are there's always new challenges, right? And the one, a few that we have going on right now, skyrocketing hardware costs. Thank you, AI. And some of the things going on with Broadcom and VMware, navigating that and or seeking alternatives. We're having those conversations every day. Obviously, we've worked with many of you on E-Rate and some other things. Happy to have those conversations. Just again, our goal here today is just to say thank you, and want to continue to support the COSA Indiana chapter and CTO, and looking forward to seeing everybody at the event coming up. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you. All right, Matrix team.
Thank you, Cassie. Thanks for having me on here too. I'm Maggie McGovern. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing at Matrix Integration. If you all are not familiar with Matrix Integration, we are a 50-year-old IT company based in Jasper, Indiana. We serve all of Kentucky, Indiana, and some of the surrounding states. So what we really do is work with our clients in a co-managed model, helping to extend your IT team. So sometimes that's taking over the management and maintenance of infrastructure, DR, security, and sometimes it's coming in to help out with a special project. So one area that we spend a lot of time on with our K-12 clients is wireless. So Wi-Fi networks are critical. Everything's running on Wi-Fi in schools, classroom devices, testing platforms, instruction, safety systems, all runs on Wi-Fi. So we can help you make sure that your Wi-Fi networks are designed to handle the density of the current systems, and yeah, just help you out with that. So if you have any questions, please reach out.
Thank you so much. And the new contact for the K-12 rep is what's on the slide here. If you don't have that, I know she joined us a couple months ago. All right, so here we are ready to get started with Julie Slavens. Of course, I'm Kathy Gobin, and along with Jeremy Miller from the Indiana CTO Council, Jeremy's monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions, Julie is happy for us to interrupt and have her stop and answer any questions that she has. So please feel free to drop anything that you are curious about in the chat, and we will make sure we get connected with you on that. Otherwise, I'm going to throw it to Julie.
Okay, well, great. Well, thank you, Cassie. So I'm going to talk about data retention and public records retention and the laws in Indiana surrounding that. But I do want to talk about a couple of the well, they're not really bills anymore. I guess they're enroll tax that have passed the General Assembly. I have not checked yet to see which ones are signed by the governor, but I'm sure they will all be signed by the governor eventually. The first one I want to talk about is the cell phone policy. Can you guys see me? My screen just went blank. It's not coming back on. Just give me a second.
We can
still see you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
well.
and we can hear you fine as well.
Okay, good. Well, I'll just talk and I won't share my screen till my, sometimes my monitors will do this. They just go blank, but usually they come back on right away. So the cell phone policy, it was adopted in 25 and now or 24 or 25, but there were some concerns with some of the school corporations about the enforcement of it, so they've just kind of refined it a little bit. Excuse me, and before it was just banning cell phone possession by students during instructional time, so they could have it like in the hallways, at lunch, before school, after school, during those times, and then. But I guess some of the teachers were concerned about it not about enforcing that and cutting into instructional time and that. So the legislature this year tweaked it a little bit to basically allow it two ways. The current way, the board has to adopt a policy as to how they're going to have it. Either they're going to ban cell phone possession entirely, like the students cannot bring them to to school at all, and then they are also, or they can keep it as it is where it's just during the instructional time. check. Oh, there we go. I've opened my laptop, now I can see everybody. I'm also, so the other option is keep it as it is or to ban it entirely. From kids even bringing them to school. That latter option was put in because then schools don't have to worry about how they're going to hold the cell phones away from kids during school time, because I think some school corporations were using the Yoders, or someone were just having them throw them in a basket or whatever, but then sometimes kids would still keep them in. So so that is something that your board will have to deal with before the 26-27 school year. So I don't know how they're going to, I mean, so your school currently I know there are some schools who when that bill passed a couple of years ago, they just banned them entirely, and some of them just stuck with the bill. So that is something that you guys will need to look at for board policy for next school year. And then the language for keeping them out of a kid's possession during class, or even like when they're at school, just said they have to somehow be secured. It doesn't require the Yoder bags. So, it could be you have you just have them keep them in their locker, or you create some space where they all can put them in a secure area for during the day, and then they can come get them at the end of the day to go home. So that is that's just something to consider and keep in mind from a technology director standpoint. So that's basically the cell phone changes. The other statute that I do want to talk about is that the schools, by the end of this calendar year, by January 1, 2027, you have to have a technology plan. And I think the way the statute is written, you could probably add this to your acceptable use policy, that you have to allow the parents a means to increase the filters that you already have on school devices that you allow the students to use. So that is something that you would actually, the statute says increase, and you guys probably know what this means better than I do, increase the strength of the filters that are described in subsection B, which is the filter requirements, to block harmful websites for minor students, or to block access to websites or content that is currently accessible on the school issued devices, or they can, and also to limit the amount of time a device may be used by a student while the school is not engaged in virtual instruction or remote learning. So this wouldn't have to apply while the students are using the devices at school, but basically when they take them home and use them at home, or use them for non-instructional time, which we know kids will do that. So that is something that probably as tech directors need to look at. The statute also goes on to talk about if you have a vendor that is doing your filtering and they're not able to comply with the new law, that you would be exempt. You might be exempt from the requirements of the new law, of the additional filters, until the expiration or renewal of that particular contract. So basically that means you're going to have to look at that your vendors who do your blocking or filtering, if that is the case at your local schools, and see if they are able to comply with this new statute, wherein parents can also increase the filters or block additional content other than what you currently block. So it's that this was originally in a separate bill that did not pass out of the second house. So it was amended into 1004, which is kind of ironic because 1004 was our dereg bill. So this was added in to be to really give more regulation. But the author of 1004 agreed to keep it in. So that is something that will you guys will have to be looking at here. And again, you'll have till the end of this calendar year. You don't have to do it at the beginning of this school year, just by the end of this calendar year. And then it does require you to inform the parent of the new policy and the new the ability to increase the filters or block content once that policy is excuse me, it's not a policy, it's the plan. Once the plan is adopted locally, you'll need to inform parents of that. Like I said, this was amended into the law that addresses acceptable use policies. So I think it's, and usually our acceptable use policies, we have that we do have the filtering language from SEPA in there. So this may be something you can add to that, or if you have a separate plan that you feel is more appropriate that this goes in, that's fine. Or if you just want to do a separate plan itself, you can do it. It's just a requirement that you will have to do by the end of the school year. Oh, I'm sorry. And I wanted to go back on the cell phone statute. I forgot to mention that the definition of wireless devices that apply does include a smartwatch now. So it's your, it's your regular normal phones, your tablets, those kinds of things. But then they did also add the smartwatches to that. So just keep that in mind. Now, it does exempt some things that need to be used through the IEP that are in the IEP. So it would exempt those devices, and it also exempts what I'm going to call, there's a more fancier name for it, but the note-taking devices that sometimes some of the special ed kids or hard of hearing kids need to use to take notes of what's happening in class. And as long as that is not something that is connected to the internet, that it's just recording and transcribing, those are fine. They do have to be worn in a manner that are visible to the teacher so that they can see them and know that that's why you're doing it. Most teachers are going to know who needs those devices. But again, those are not banned. Those are an exception to the prohibition on wireless devices. So
we had someone that commented about smart glasses, like prescription meta glasses. Those, right. The language included in that those are not permitted as well, or
there is not. It just specifies the smartwatch. Okay. Now, the way that the wireless devices definition is, I personally would say I think you can ban those because my understanding, again, not technology savvy here, as much as you guys know. My understanding is those meta glasses, they are connected to the internet, to either Bluetooth or some kind of wireless connection. Am I correct in that?
Yeah.
So I would say that because of the definition of wireless devices, that those probably could be banned as well. But I probably will need to look into that. Probably when I do my write-up on that statute, I will look into that a little bit more. I know I've had a few questions from my big screens are back on. I know I've had some questions on that from some superintendents, because I guess that's more and more people are using that. But I mean, I knew a lot of adults were, I just didn't think kids were. So that was, that is something I did do a few things on, but I think the statute, or did a few little research on, and to me, I think the statute, would allow for that. The other issue, I guess, is if they can be used and turned off. The wireless component, the Bluetooth component can be turned off while they're using it. Because I think I saw another one there about prescription glasses.
Yeah, I think that's what is really getting people on the hook is if a parent says, well, those are prescription glasses, that is what we purchased for their new glasses, that it's putting people in a bind.
Yeah.
It's a medical necessity.
Right. Yeah, so that complicates it, right? So I think the issue there is gonna be whether they have the capacity to, still use the glasses to see, but not have the Meta Bluetooth connected. Again, how are you going to enforce that? I don't know. This is as I've told you guys many times, this is the problem with the law. It doesn't keep up with technology. So we just have to kind of, well, is it like this? Is it like that? Which we know what the law does do. So, yeah, that is something that I think you're just gonna have to explore with that parent is that, hey, that's fine if the prescription glasses, you may want to ask them for confirmation that it is, and then say, well, they cannot be connected to during the during the class period. Again, I don't know how you know that. I mean, I don't know if there's like a blue light up there or whatever, but that's the best, best I can say on that one. So, but I did want to mention that the definition for the wireless devices does include the smartwatch. So those are going to have to be taken as well, in addition to the phones and tablets and that. All right. I don't really think there's anything else with respect to the statutes that directly affect you guys. I mean, if you have some questions, I'll try and answer. I'm still in the process of going through the bill's new laws to see what is affecting school corporations. I generally don't follow them too much during the session because they always end up being something different than what they started. And, to me, I don't have to deal with the law, and that means when the governor signs them. So I'm in the process of learning all that now. I will speak to this. We have had a lot of publicity, especially from Katie Jenner, on the social media bill. And that really doesn't affect schools in the sense that it really addresses the social media companies and what they can and can't do with respect to social media access to minors. And plus, we have the cell phone bill that prohibits them having them at school. So that really kind of takes it out of the school's hands because they can't have them in the school anyway. So we'll have to. So that it's interesting.
To, like, schools' ability to allow those on school-issued devices?
I'm sorry, Casey, did you say that again?
Would it restrict schools' ability to allow social media on school-managed devices? I don't do that. I don't allow that, but you might.
I think it would, because I think there's a general prohibition about access to social media by minors. Which I know they're going back and forth on the age. I think they ended up at 13, but it may be a little bit older. So I think it would, in the sense that you would have to be careful about the elementary age kids getting a hold of it. And also I think it talks more about the algorithm part of it with respect to minors, which may or may not be an issue if it's a school created social media page, because hopefully they're doing more higher end stuff, and not the algorithms I think would be different if they know adults are looking at it or doing it kids getting on it. So, again, not sure how all that works, but that's my understanding. There's not really, a whole lot of issues that the school has to be concerned with respect to that law. Okay, but again, haven't read it thoroughly, so maybe when I read it, there may be other things come up, and I will be sure and let you guys know. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about in the last few minutes here is record retention. As you guys know, you retain all the records. Any records that are created by, received by, maintained by the school corporation are public records, and they are subject to our access to public records law. And very rarely are those records paper records. A lot of them are now stored electronically. So we're talking about all your student records, your student information systems, personnel reports, all those kinds of things that hit your server. So they are subject to as I said, to the access to public records law. Now, under the access to public records law, and then they're also subject to the records retention law. So the records retention law, their definition of record is a little bit different than the definition in the access to public records law. The access to public records law basically talks about any and all records that the school corporation maintains. The retention law really just talks about records that address the operations of the school or of the governmental entity, which in this case would be the school, or historical value. Okay, so there are some things that you wouldn't necessarily have to retain, but they may be subject to the access to public records law. So I want to kind of just take you on a tour of the Indiana Archives and Records Administration. They're the state agency that oversees the retention laws. And basically what that law says is that the records under the definition of the law, so the historical records, the operational records, the business records of the school corporation have to be retained per a local, or if there's no local record, per the state records retention. And again, this is not really the type of record. So we're not really talking emails, we're talking about the content of the record. So when we talk about retaining emails, we're really looking at the content of the record. Although I know it might be a little bit easier to flesh out the ones you don't need to keep, but I think a lot of you just retain your records, but you retain your emails because just to be safe that you have to retain them under the retention laws. The default period is 3 years. Some of the records have to be kept longer than that. Some of them may be destroyed prior to that. And there are there's a process that you have to go through locally of when you can destroy the records, and that's by your local or county records retention commission. So let me share my screen here. Yeah, this is the right one. Okay, so the main page is just in.gov/IARA, which stands for Indiana Archives and Records Administration. And this is basically the homepage. It's fairly easy to navigate. They've really done a good job of opening up or making it more user-friendly. It didn't used to be. So here it just talks about the archives. There's some quick links here to the retention schedules. The state retention schedules you don't need to look at because those are for state agencies. Mostly what you're going to look at are the county and local retention schedules. There's also a state records management handbook that's going to tell you, not that one, I'm sorry, the county one. That's just going to give you just overview of what the statute requires and what you need to do locally to retain your records. And then there's just some other management things there. So let's go to the county and local retention schedules. So a few years ago, I was on a committee that we kind of revamped these schedules because we had a local government schedule, and then we also had a school schedule. Well, there was a lot of overlap between the two. So what we tried to do is make one general schedule and then just have an education institution record that dealt specifically with records that a public school or university is going to have. So here is all of the retention records. So you want to go down here because you're not a county officer, you're not a city or town. So other local retention schedules, and this is the general run that I talked about, where we combined a lot of the records that overlapped with local government entities. So when you click on that, it's gonna bring up the record retention schedule. And so this is just kind of the hints of what you need to do in retaining records or keeping copies. And then this tells you that this was adopted by the commission. And then here is the basic record. So, and this is searchable, so you may have minutes, office files, just general files, legal files would be, basically your litigation. Ordinance is not going to apply to you. Your documentation of your disposition, any education or outreach materials you may have, accounting, payroll. Here we go. Personnel files. So it'll tell you what you need to do for personnel files, what they consider to be part of personnel files that are subject. And then here is the retention schedule over here. So here you can see these have to be destroyed 10 years after they separate from employment. And then here's another one that, this has a different one in your medical records. Sometimes you might have medical records of an employee. Maybe they had a workers' comp claim or something like that. So that one you only have to keep 3 years after they leave. We have a lot of employees who may go on the FMLA Act. So we have to keep those records there too. Now those may be part of the employee files, personnel files up here. But they don't necessarily list that. I mean, they list requests for leave, but not necessarily the FMLA. So those may be, need to be retained under a different category. Then we have the general personnel. Those are like calendars, meeting events, training, that kind of thing. Publications that you may do, we're all in here. Any audio, video, or general recordings that you do, that you have. And here you see some of them are permanent. You have to keep them forever. You have to retain them forever. And one of those that you do have to retain forever is the policies of the school corporation. So even when a board amends a policy, that former policy has to be retained on a permanent basis. Surveillance, historical data, those kinds of things. So, excuse me. So those are just general records you're going to have. You can go through and look through those. So then at the end, they kind of give a synopsis of what they have updated over the years. So then the ones that are going to pertain to school corporations. They call them the educational institutions, or the ED. And so we'll look at those again, information about how you retain them. And then they're again broken up into administrative type records. So we have here the student files, accident reports, school testing results, even summer school registration, and then individual schools. We have those listed, like, so lesson plans, if you keep the lesson plans of teachers, you can just store those 6 months after an academic year is done. The transcripts of a student, they're going to have to be permanent. There may be a way you can transfer those down to the state after a number of years, and that they give you instructions there on how to do that. So then here we have the student email account contact. So you can destroy those after 6 months after the school year. Okay, so that would be basically into the next school year. You could destroy those. On those, also, I want to be careful here in that some of those emails, not only from students but employee emails and that, they may have information in there that may become the subject of litigation in the future. And if some of those emails contain that type of information, you probably really should pull them out and put them in a litigation hold archive, so that in case you do need those are there available to you. So as you can see, that one was a little bit shorter because it really more focuses on the student aspect of it, and training of bus drivers and building inspections and employee records. So that one's a little bit shorter. So what I've always said is, if it's a record that's it's related to a student or to school specifically, go to the education institution record first. And they have them in a series, and ED, that means the educational institution record. So if I email you and refer you to this, to look at this retention schedule. So look at this one first, and if it's not in here, then I would go to the general, local, and county retention schedule. That's a GED is how they call those. So a lot of times if I get questions on what they have to retain, that will be my reference. But I usually give this information out as well. I believe I forgot to check this. I'm sorry, before I got on. We did have a link to these on our website, the Indiana School Boards Association website, but we have changed our website, so I don't know if those got migrated over or not. But what I can do, Jeremy and Cassie, is I can send you the link to this, because I know people probably don't have a chance to write it down, which will probably be one, and that way you can send it out so that they will have that and where to find that.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah. So the one thing I also wanted to say was that when you're on this website, the archive, there's all different ways you can get to this. I mean, like you have the retention record up here. You have the handbook. It will probably eventually take you there. Records retention. There's information there, and then it gives you the links again. And yes, it says here that's for all state agencies, so you don't want that one. You want the general ones, and then office specifics. That will be where you find the education ones. It also talks about any training that you need, any publications they have. They have news and events, different divisions that you can contact. for questions on that. So like yours would probably bring more records and information management. Let's see. So it's really, if you can't find it, really not, like I said, right here we have services. So there's the retention. If you hit on that, it gives you the retention records again. Tells you how to retain it. Again, links to them. I know it's, I can't find it. They did have some training videos and that too that I know I can find. So if you just kind of play around it, I think you can find whatever data, whatever information that you need. They have FAQs, online services as well. Again, you can do a search of the record retentions, that kind of thing. So it's really a handy website. It's much more user-friendly than it has been in years past. They've really done a good job to make it more user-friendly and easier to find the information that we need. Sometimes it used to be these schedules were buried, like we had to go 3 or 4 clicks before you could even find them. So they've really done a good job of that. So basically that is it on records retention. Again, that, like I said, there is some provisions where you can, you don't have to store everything electronically or on your services. You maybe even have to print them out and do a microfiche of them, or you can, if they're so old, if they're really old, there are ways that you can send them to the state record retention depository, and that information is sent on the website. I was also am going to send you, Cassie, the person who is specific, who is with the IARA, who specifically deals with the local retention schedules, and there's a wealth of information, and we probably answer any question we have about it on the spot. So that'll be a good resource for your people as well. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I
send all of that out with the recording for everyone.
Yeah, we will send that. I will send that to you after I get off doing. I'm sorry, I meant to do it. I have had a crazy week. That's why I didn't get to have slides for you guys either. So I will send that information out to you after I get off here, so that you can send it to the group of all of your members. So I know we wanted to maybe stop at 12:45, so I think we have a few minutes if there's any questions or comments or clarifications that you need on what I said.
Haven't been as chatty as they were last year, I have to say.
Oh, they're probably all getting ready for spring break.
Hopefully.
I know I've talked to a few. I had a call last week from a couple of directors who they have a new student management system, and so they're like having to redo all the questions. And they're like, "Do we really have to ask these questions?" So I think a lot of people are doing that, getting their systems up and ready for registration. So anyway, and yeah, records retention. It's one of those things you don't really need to know until you're doing it. So we have the general information out there, and again, they can call or email me also at any time.
That's fantastic. Well, I don't see any major questions coming up, or any minor ones. I don't see any.
All questions are important.
But thank you for being here and joining us and really sharing, what knowledge you have of updates thus far. And we'll be on the lookout for what, you're available to send us, and I will put that out with the recording. So.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I think that's all for today. Again, just one last shout out to register for the clinic if you haven't done that yet. So we'll see you all soon. Bye.